everyone, welcome back. I hope you're having a wonderful day. So to my beginner family students, today we're going to be talking about the simple past tense. Before we studied simple present, present continuous, the three different ways to use the future. Now we're going to talk about the past. So we're going to talk about the simple past tense, and then later we'll talk about past progressive or past continuous, okay? Now, when do I use the simple past tense? We use it for actions that happen in the past that are completed, they're done, they're finished. Okay, so in this video, we're going to be focusing on three things. One are regular and irregular verbs. There's a lot of irregular verbs, unfortunately. There's negatives and the different types of questions. So for this video, we'll focus on the two most important questions, yes or no, and more information. Okay, so for regular verbs, usually you have a verb, for example, walk, or talk, or work. Okay, all of these have the K ending, right? So we have the verb plus ed. Now, the thing about this ed ending is it actually has three pronunciation sounds, and I'm going to link the video for that lesson that I have talking about the three sounds. So the three sounds could be the T sound, the D sound, or the id sound, okay? So if you have a K ending and I have ed, and ed, that means this final sound, I'm going to pronounce it with that T. So walked, talked, worked, right? Same could be said if I use, let's say, an unvoiced sound like a type. That P, if I have an ed ending, so the word ends with an E, right, to type on the computer, all I need to do is add that D. So because this is unvoiced, it's also going to use this T ending, typed, okay? Now let's take a look at some examples with the D ending and then the ID ending. Then afterwards, we're going to also look at spelling rules, okay? Remember when we talked about consonant, vowel, consonant, and doubling the last consonant letter? We need to do the same for the simple past tense and the present continuous, right? For example, if I say, I am getting pizza for dinner, G-E-T, right? G-E-T. So because that's consonant, vowel, consonant, for the simple for the present continuous, we need to double that T, right? There's a similar rule with the past tense, and we will study that in a little bit. So first, let's look at some other examples with the D ending and then the ID ending, okay? So now let's look at these endings with the N sound, the M sound, the L sound, and the R sound. Clean, welcome, call, roar, like a lion, right? Roar. So if we have this ed ending, ed, here we already have an E. So for spelling, it's easy. All you need is a D. Call, ed, roar, ed, okay? So if you hear the N, the M, the L, or the R sound, these are just some examples. Hear that, then we're going to use this one over here, this D ending. So cleaned, welcomed, called, roared, okay? In the beginning, when you're practicing this pronunciation, slow it down and exaggerate it. I know it sounds weird, but later when you talk faster, more quickly, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to hear those sounds. So right now, since we're starting to learn, make it loud so I can hear you and I can make sure that it's the correct pronunciation for the T, the D, and the ID, okay? Now let's take a look at some of these examples with the ID ending. So with the ID ending, what do you notice these words, graduate, need, want, decide? What do they have in common? What are the two syllable sounds, the two consonant sounds you hear? Graduate, okay, T, right? Need, D, okay, the D sound. Want, the T sound. Decide, the D sound. So for this one, if you have the T or the D sound, then when you add that ed, you're going to say id. This is a plus one syllable, okay? What does that mean? If I have, for example, graduate has 3 syllables, right? But if I add that ed, it's going to be 4 syllables. So graduated, right? Same thing with need. Need, 1 syllable. Needed, 2 syllables. Want, 1 syllable. Wanted, 2 syllables. Decide, 2 syllables. Decided, 3 syllables, right? Now, for more information about this, because there's a lot of different consonant sounds, please check out the other video. Now, let's talk a little bit about spelling. When do I double? When do I not double? Okay? Then afterwards, we're going to talk about negatives. So now let's take a look at these verbs, okay? The ones on the left that you see here are 1 syllable sounds. 1 syllable means one kind of beat, right? So stop, plan, rub, rot. Okay, these are examples of regular verbs that we're going to add the ed. But before we do that, look at the last 3 letters. Consonant, vowel, consonant, right? Consonant, vowel, consonant. Dun, dun, dun. Consonant, vowel, consonant. Consonant, vowel, consonant. You know what? I'll give you one more. Drop, slip. Okay, same thing. Consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel, consonant, right? Now, we know rub. You know, if you have lotion, sunscreen, you rub it everywhere, right? Rot, rot. That means if something is bad, for example, if you have meat or you have fruit and you take it out of the refrigerator and you have it on your table 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, it's the meat or the fruit begins to rot. It means it goes bad, right? So in all of these cases, before I add this ed, I need to double this final consonant. So stop, stopped, right? And remember, with that P ending, we're going to use that T sound. Stopped, stopped, okay? Plan, planned, okay? So if it's one syllable sound, plan, planned. There's no change in that syllable count, right? Stop, stopped. You want to add that ed sound, make it fast. Stopped. Planned. This is voiced. So rubbed, rubbed. D sound, rubbed. Here, rot, right? This one, because it has a T sound, we're going to say rotted, right? The meat rotted on the table. It's bad, right? Okay, over here, drop. So drop, consonant, vowel, consonant. So we're going to double that P again. Dropped, dropped. Slip, P, same sound, P, P, P. So it's going to be a T sound. Slipped, slipped. All right? When the floor is wet and you're walking, maybe in the grocery store, you can slip, right? Slip, slipped. Okay. There's a lot of exceptions, changes to this rule, but one thing I need to teach you first is here. Prefer. Prefer. How many syllables do you hear in that? Prefer. 2, right? What about this one? Open has 2, right? Occur. Occur is similar to the word happen, okay? Occur. 2 syllables, right? But there's a difference in all of these. Let me get out another color. Okay, so for example, open, okay, this is 2 syllables, right? Okay. Prefer, this is 2 syllables, and occur, 2 syllables, right? But in all of these, one part of the word is stressed. Stressed, meaning it's louder. It's stressed. Stressed just means it's louder, okay? So over here, which one is stressed? Do I say open or do I say open? You're right. Open, right? Okay, so the first syllable. But consonant, vowel, consonant. Double, Caroline, right? You only double if, okay, for example, prefer. The stress is here, okay? This is my stress. Very different than this one. The stress here is in the beginning. Open the door. Here it's prefer, right? Okay, that's number one. The stress is at the end, the final syllable. Number two, consonant, vowel, consonant. So then now I'm going to double. But Caroline, how do I know which word, where the stress goes? The dictionary will be your friend, okay? So for example, sometimes you may see a word, like, let's look at the word prefer, for example. So you see the word prefer here. Notice that they break it up into two, right? Prefer. So that shows me it has two sounds, two syllables. But you see that little line here in front of the last syllable? That means the stress is here, the final syllable. So wherever you see this, that's connected to whatever follows after. Let's do another example, like open. Okay, open. Okay, so two syllables, 1, 2. But in this case, the stress is right before the O, right? So we need to be careful when we're looking at this, where the stress is. Because sometimes if the stress is not the last syllable, here we do not need to double this. We just have ED. It must have two parts. The stress must be at the end, and number two, it's consonant, vowel, consonant. Okay, so look at this. Occur. The stress is here again, right? And it's consonant, vowel, consonant. So what are we going to do here? We're going to double it, right? Occurred. Very good. Now, there's some exceptions to this rule, which I'm going to teach you right now. So, like every grammar rule in English, there's always exceptions, meaning that these words do not follow the rules I'm teaching you. Why? I don't know. I always tell my students, I'm sorry, English is a very, very difficult language, but you are all very intelligent and I know you can do it. Okay, so kidnap. Okay, kidnap. Now, this is what I was talking to you about. Be careful where you hear that stress, okay? So I wanted to put in a little test. Tell me, where is the stress here? Kidnap, worship. Where do you hear it? Is it in the beginning or the end? I'll say it for you one more time. Kidnap, worship. Where do you hear that stress? And if you're always confused, you can go to the dictionary. I am going to give you this dictionary. It's called Longman, and it's wonderful, especially when you're trying to learn how to, spell in English or the rules. So over here, if we take a look at this, I put in the word kidnap, and it's showing me, hey, Caroline, okay, this has two syllables, kidnap, okay? But let's take a look over here. Over here, it says that the stress is at the beginning. So kidnap. Right? Kidnap. Kidnap is not a good thing. A kidnap or kidnapper is the noun. That means that this person is taking something that does not belong to them, right? Another word is worship. Worship. Worship is to think of like pray, right? Usually people have a religion, a belief, right? So you can worship something or someone. In this case, same thing, two syllables, right? Worship. But here, you see that line? Again, that will always tell you the stress. You don't need to worry about this. This weird looking language is called IPA. IPA is for people all over the world that study languages to know how to pronounce. But we don't need to focus on that right now. So that means the stress is here, worship. Stress must be here at the end, but because the stress is here, right, you usually don't change. But this is the exception, right? Here, we're going to use this word kidnap, even though that the stress is here, even for worship, even though that the stress is here, Usually we don't double. In this case, we are. P-P-E-D. P-P-E-D. Now remember, with that P, it's going to be a T ending. So kidnapped, kidnapped, worshipped, worshipped. When I'm saying it, it's kind of like worshipped, kidnapped, right? Very strange, I know. Most of the verbs in the English language will not do this, but I want to give you the exceptions. I want to teach you everything. So in the UK, in British English and American English, some things are very similar, some things are very different, right? We have different words to study, for example, to say the bathroom, right? We say the loo, right? Or the apartment, we say flat in the UK, right? So over here, travel, okay? Cancel, okay? Here, we have a stress that comes before the final syllable, right? Depending on what you're reading and where, the UK and England, they double this. They double this. Okay. In the United States, we do not double. We only add the ED sound. Traveled, canceled. But you know what is very strange? Very strange about the English language? So the stress is here. Canceled, right? Traveled. No double. But for this word, the noun, cancellation. We double it for the noun. Weird, right? Okay, don't worry about that right now. Over here, if you see anywhere with a W ending or an X ending, like mix, fix, right? Bow, bow, or snow, you don't double. Even though it's consonant, vowel, consonant, you don't double. You only have the ED, ED, ED. Very similar to what we studied in the present continuous tense. No doubling, okay? Over here, similar. If you have the C ending, in pronunciation, the C ending actually has two sounds inside that C. It actually has a K. So picnic, picnicked. We're gonna actually add this K. There are not too many examples in the English language that will do this. So, for example, picnic or panic. Panic is to get scared, we say in English to freak out, which means you are very concerned about something, right? You get a call from your son saying he's in a car crash. You panic, you get scared, you're worried, right? Panic. Okay, if I want to change this adjective to the past tense, panicked, right? Same thing with the K, K-E-D. These are the only exceptions that we will focus on for the simple past tense, okay? A lot of information. Next, we're going to take a look at negatives. In the simple present tense, we use do not and does not. The simple past is much easier, I promise you. There's only one. After that, we'll take a look at some of the ways you can ask questions in the past tense. You're doing fantastic. So remember what I told you about negatives? In the past tense, you only need to remember one. Did not or didn't. In English, in the simple present tense, we have to remember do not, does not, depending on who we are talking about, right? Over here, we just have didn't for anyone. For I, you, he, she, it, we, they. We only need did not. So for example, if I say he works, work. Let's say, for example, let's do this in the simple present today. Okay, in the simple present, let's first talk about simple present as a review. The simple present, I have he works today. But if I want the negative, I cancel this. I don't have an S ending, right? And then here, because it's he, I say doesn't, right? For the simple present. Very, very similar in the negative for the simple past. So you guessed it. We need this, didn't. So if I say, for example, he didn't work maybe yesterday. My verb for the negative will not change, okay? There's no ED. There's no ED or no IED here, right? Over here, I have didn't. So it doesn't matter. I could say he, I could say I could say we. Over here, it has no it does not change it. This will always stay the same. It doesn't matter who my subject is, which is fantastic because it makes things a little bit easier, right? So let's say, for example, let's look at some more examples here. So I have some sentences for you. This rule, I want to talk to you about this. I have an I here. Do you remember? Let's look at that word, marry. What do I do in the simple present tense? So I would say she marries, right? In the simple present tense, I would say IES, right? Here, for the past tense, if you have a consonant sound, it's the same rule. So if you have a consonant in front of that Y, which is here, then you change that to IED. But if you have, let's say, for example, play, a vowel sound, do I change this to Y? Yes or no? No, right? I only have ED. So be careful. Always look what's before the Y. So I'm trying to show you a connection here between the simple present and past tense. Some of the grammar rules overlap, okay? So if I want to change this to the negative, what must I put here? Didn't. She didn't marry her husband last year, okay? Now, oftentimes I hear my beginner ESL students say, she doesn't marry her husband last year. You're correct, it's a negative, but we need to be careful because you're giving me mixed ideas. You're saying she doesn't marry, so present, but then you say last year, so past, right? This is where pronunciation is very important. It's a small difference. If I say, she works at Starbucks. She worked at Starbucks. Very, very similar. All I'm doing is changing the S or the ED ending, right? So the pronunciation must be clear for the listener to understand what time, what verb tense you're using. So she didn't marry her husband last year. Or my friend Lydia, hello Lydia. My friend Lydia walked in the morning. Okay, change this to the past tense. What do I need before my verb? Didn't. And then over here, do I need this ED? No, you always need the original form of the verb, so there's no ED ending. So my friend Lydia didn't walk in the morning. Or over here, Chef Mario, my student, Chef Mario cooked a delicious meal for his friends, right? Cooked. Okay, so in front of cooked, I have didn't. Very good. Okay, do I need this ED? No, erase it. Take it out. We don't need this. Okay? My other student, Junsuk, traveled, 1L, traveled to San Francisco last week with her family. So here again, after Junsuk, she didn't travel, ED, yes or no? No, we take that out, right? So Junsuk didn't travel to San Francisco. She went to Hawaii. I'm kidding. But you get the idea, right? Anytime I have a negative in front of the verb, this must be the original verb, right? Similar to the simple present tense. No S, no ES, no IES. Here, no ED or no irregular verbs. So right now, we're only looking at regular verbs, right? With the ED ending, ED ending, ED ending. But there's a lot of irregular verbs. And we're going to take a look at some of them together. And then we'll talk about questions, okay? You're doing great. I always like to talk about the irregular verbs, especially these two. These are the two most important verbs in English. If you do not understand what the be verb and have are, then you need to tell me so I can help you, okay? We cannot learn more advanced grammar, more advanced verbs if we do not have a good understanding of these two. Okay, so the be verb, we have two options, was and were. When do I use was? For the subjects, I, he, she, it, okay? What about for were? We use it for you, we, they, okay? So for example, I was tired yesterday, or she was angry, all right? Or he was late to work, or we were in the library studying yesterday, or they were at home, right? Or you were busy yesterday, right? The second verb is have. Pronunciation for past tense is had. For this one, it does not matter. I could say I had, for example, I had 2 dogs. Now I have 1 dog now in the present, right? Or she had 10 cookies. Now she has 2 cookies. She ate 8 cookies, right? Or we had a wonderful time, right? For had, it does not matter the subject. I could say I had, you had, he had, she had, it had, we had, and they had, right? They're all going to use the same verb. That's why the simple past tense is a little bit easier, because the verb, you have one verb and it does not matter the subject. You can put anyone in front of that verb, okay? So we are going to be studying irregular verbs together, but let me give you about 6 very, very common irregular verbs that you should know. Okay, so I lied. I'm going to give you 8 for right now, okay? So, no, like, same pronunciation as yes and no, right? But, I know the answer, right? Okay, in the past tense, think about the word new, like old and new, right? But here we're going to have a silent K. You don't hear that K, you pronounce it as new. So, for example, oh, I knew her when I was in elementary school, right? I knew her. In Spanish, we have saber and conocer, so it's a little bit more difficult, right? In English, we only have one verb, knew. Okay, come, we're only going to change this to an A, so came. So I had a party, and my friend, she came early. She came early. Okay. These two are very tricky. They're very, very similar. So buy is bought. I always tell my students, think of, like, for example, a robot. A robot looks like this. So this is a robot. The pronunciation of bought is like this, bought. Robot, if you don't know what it looks like, it's like one of these. So robot. So anytime you're trying to pronounce this word, think of bot, like robot, okay? Bring, very, very similar. But here we have that BR sound, right? So we're going to say brought, okay? Very, very close. Be careful with that. So remember, BR, okay? Brought, bought. Brought, bought. So for example, my friend brought her husband to my party. They bought lots of cookies and sodas and snacks for us, okay? Now, number 5, give. Give, like give money, right? Give. Give, we're only going to change that I, so it's going to be gave. Right? I gave you $20, right? I gave. Take, took. Took. So for example, maybe a thief took your jewelry or took your wallet, right? Took. You can also say take a test. You took a test before, right? Okay, bleed. Only one E. Bled. Okay. Now, let me, one second. So the I, ride, road, right? Same pronunciation as the noun, a road that you drive on, right? This is a road. Road. Same pronunciation. So, this weekend, I rode my bike with my boyfriend to the mountains. We rode our bike to the mountains. I rode very quickly. And I'll give you one more. Fall, which is fell. Okay? So we rode our bike. I rode very quickly and I fell. I fell and I cut my arm. Uh-oh, can you see? It's better. Today is better. And I bled. My legs and my arms. Oh, I love riding my bike, but I am very clumsy and I fall a lot. So this past weekend, I fell off a little bridge and I hurt and cut are both same in the simple past and the present simple present. We'll talk about those later. And as you begin to learn more verbs in the past tense, I want you to tell me stories, okay, about your past using these verbs. So, we talked about the grammar, we talked about regular verbs, a little bit about the pronunciation, right? We talked about how to spell with the doubling consonant, vowel, consonant on the final syllable sound. We talked about how verbs change from the I ending to IED if there's a consonant in front of the Y. We also talked about exceptions, right? So we do not double if it has a W ending or an X ending or a C ending, right? And we also talked about these negatives, right? Negatives and irregular past tense verbs. So remember, when we put this together, let's say, let's do number one. Let's say the negative with an irregular verb. Okay, the rule is going to be the same. Now there's a lot of irregular verbs in the simple past tense. So let's say I use this word know. If I say I knew, past tense, the answer. I knew the answer. Right? I knew the answer. Okay, but if I use my negative, okay, so in front of my verb, I need didn't. But remember, this, you will never have ed, and this is not the original verb. This is the past tense irregular verb. So I must change it back to this. So I know the answer. I didn't know the answer to the question, right? Or let's say, for example, give. She gave me $20. She gave me $20, okay? Gave, this is an irregular past tense verb. So if I change this to the negative, right? She didn't. Do I change this, yes or no? I must change it because this is the irregular past tense verb, but this is the original form, right? So she didn't give me $20. How are you doing? Are you okay? All right, the last part is we're going to talk about questions just a little bit, and we'll do more review with it later, okay? So again, the thing I want to highlight is for questions, they all find kind of a similar format. They're organized very similarly. So usually for yes or no questions for the simple present, we say do or does, and then the be verbs, right? Same thing here, but now we're going to use did. And the be verb, we have two options, was and were. Then we always have who, right? who. So if we have did, this is a helper verb. So I must have a verb here, right? I must have a verb here. Was and were, they're the be verbs. So I can have an adjective or a noun if I want. I could say, was he late? Was he a doctor? Was he a teacher, right? I can have an adjective or noun for my be verb. Now remember, yes or no questions, intonation will go up. Did you call? Was he late? Were we on time, right? The intonation will rise. It will go up for the pronunciation, okay? I want you to try to think of a yes or no question with each of these, did, was, and more, okay? Now we're gonna look at more information questions. So let's take a look at those. So at this point, you're familiar with the WH words. We did a lot of practice with that, right? In our video with the 4 types of questions and using those simple present, present continuous, and now the simple past. So we need these words in front of our yes or no questions, right? These are going to be more information questions. So how do I write that? Well, I need one of these words here. I need to put it in front, right? Sometimes you need to change it a little bit. But did you call? Did you call? I was home. I did not hear you, right? So I could ask, for example, when? When? What time did you call? So remember, the intonation for more questions is going to go down. When did you call? Why? Why did you call, right? Now, whose phone did you call? Right? For example. Now, was he late to work? Why? Why was he late to work? Or how was he late to work? How was he late to work? Traffic, right? Now, you could also ask, were we on time? Were we on time? Why were we on time? We are usually late. Why were we on time today, right? You can use any variety of these, right? You could say, for example, with questions, what? What did you eat for dinner yesterday, right? When did you go to a restaurant? Why did you sleep so much today, right? How did you feel this last weekend, right? Or whose phone was this? Like maybe in the past, right? If I found this on the ground, for example. Which color did you like when we went shopping yesterday? The red or the blue? Where did you go? I was looking for you. Where did you go, right? All of these are examples of more information questions. Now I want you to think of some questions, and if you want, you can write them in the chat box for me under YouTube, and I will answer them for you, and we'll have a little conversation, okay? I hope this video helps. It should be a review of the past tense, but if this is your first time, let me know. And if anything's confusing, what I will do is I will record another video and we'll focus on parts of the grammar that you do not understand. As always, please stay safe. I'm so happy that you're here with us watching this video and continuing to learn English. I'm so proud of you. Have a wonderful day and I'll see you soon. Bye everyone.